And now, Effective Communication with Phil Zeller, CEO, Dale Carnegie, Southwest Michigan.
Have you heard? Elections have consequences. Everybody has something to say about the election, right? We've all lived through it. We had a great voter turnout. Congratulations, America. You showed up and you voted. This is fantastic. People made their votes count this year, which is always a wonderful thing. We love to hear from everybody, and everybody again thought their ideas out there. As we talk about effective communication here on the show, there are so many things that we hear every day or we say every day that are cause and effects related. Everything is cause and effect in life. And it's a common denominator, cause and effect. It's not just if you took physics class or not to understand cause and effect. It's in everything that we do. And it's interesting because it's all around us that people are worried about what's going to happen. What's going to happen with this election? How are things going to turn out? What's going to change? And the reality is, if we look back at history, that's going to give us the clearest indicator of what's going to happen in the future. Let me give you an example. Something really cool happened recently. SpaceX launched 4 astronauts into outer space. That's really cool. I don't know about you. I love sci-fi. I think it's cool. I think, going in outer space and learning new stuff and finding new stuff out and always growing as a person is something that we should all strive to do as a human being. And so anytime people are willing to explore and find out new things and learn new information, it's awesome. And so some folks went in SpaceX and they're astronauts and they've went to outer space recently. And interestingly enough, that flight, when it was supposed to take off, when the rocket was supposed to take off, they delayed the flight taking off. Now, those of you who are paying attention to this in the news found out the reason they delayed the flight is because there were some concerns with the weather, right? So basically they said, well, we don't want to put these astronauts at risk. We want to make sure they're safe, and we want to make sure that this flight goes off without a hitch when we take off. So therefore, they took the weather in consideration, and they waited till they could heat things properly and get things right so that they could have a successful launch. Well, we all know why this is so important, not because this is important because of this, but we all remember the Challenger situation back in the 1980s of where we lost all those wonderful astronauts in the Challenger space shuttle, and it blew up. Why? Because if you study and you look at the notes on that in engineering, it was too cold. And apparently the seals didn't seal properly, and there was blow-by, and then next thing you know, there was an explosion, and we lost all those wonderful human beings, those pioneers going into outer space, and we lost them. And it was a horrible day, and I remember watching it on TV with all my classmates in school, and it was horrible. We felt awful. But here's the cool thing about it. Success in history leaves clues. And even failure in history leaves clues. And the clues are the SpaceX folks had a great launch because they delayed because of weather, and then they were able to take off because they learned from the past. So as you think about things going on, I want you to use the law of averages. And Dale Carnegie would say to do this, so I'm asking you to do it, because Dale Carnegie found out that in history, when we look at history, in his research, he found that the law of averages is going to help us deal with our challenges today. And if you're worried about something today, ask yourself, how do you think it's going to turn out? Well, go back to last time you worried about something like this. How did it turn out? For instance, a lot of people, of course, are worried about COVID. It's real. It's a real issue. And I've been worried about it with my family. Well, my mother this past summer, she lives in another state, and she ended up getting COVID. She's 85 years old with underlying health conditions, and you're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking, right? Well, she passed away. No, she didn't. She beat it. 85 years old, underlying health conditions, and she was able to beat COVID. How cool is that? She actually didn't even go to the hospital. She stayed 4 days in bed, and she said the only time she got out of bed was to go get soup or go to the bathroom, but she beat it. So now when I look at COVID, is it still a nasty, ugly thing? Absolutely. And that being said, if my 85-year-old mother can beat COVID, and she has a lot of underlying health conditions, that gives hope to me and a lot of other people, and it helps give me more peace of mind. So as Dale Carnegie would say, use the law of averages. If you're worried about something, look back at history. Look at what happened in the past. Learn from the past. Prepare for tomorrow by taking what we learned from the past. Whether it was a failure or success, we learn from it. And when we count the law of averages of how things turn out in the past when we're worried about them, we'll find that most of the things we worried about never came to fruition. And most of the things we were able to deal with. And if you do this, use the law of averages, you'll have more peace and harmony in your life and a lot less worry and stress.